The way Jamaica run now, it's not right. People fed up. In contrast, the current government's performance over the last 9 years has been dismal. In their 2 terms, they have done virtually nothing to improve the efficiency of the bureaucracy and the ease of doing business in Jamaica. They have passed no transformational legislation to improve efficiency of the bureaucracy, and they've done almost nothing to improve the ease of doing business. Therefore, when the Prime Minister on Sunday promised to make Jamaica's bureaucracy modern, user-friendly, and efficient, it is yet another empty promise, similar to his 2016 promises to have fixed election dates put in the Constitution and to hold a grand referendum to settle what he called outstanding national issues within his first 100 days in office. His promise on Sunday rings hollow, like the now defunct Economic Growth Council and the spectacular failure in delivering 5% annual economic growth after 4 years, which has not happened. The truth is that their very poor track record shows that this government does not have the capacity to deliver the reforms required to achieve an efficient bureaucracy. And this is not a task that private sector bigwigs can be of much assistance with. The PNP's record of legislative capability, innovation, and nimbleness is what is needed to resume the process of making a bloated and cumbersome bureaucracy work for ordinary Jamaicans and Jamaican businesses. We will deliver for Jamaica. Aspire, as his new program is called, is just another PR exercise. It does not inspire and can only expire. The JLP government will continue to fail the people. Furthermore, this is a government without credibility to back up promises. 8 of their members of parliament, including the Prime Minister himself, are under investigation for the corruption offense of illicit enrichment. It is a blot on Jamaica's international image and reputation. No Prime Minister can lead the country with credibility when he remains under such a cloud when it comes to his own financial integrity. The promised reduction of the rate of general consumption tax on electricity will not impact the majority of JPS customers who consume less than 150 kilowatt hours per month of electricity and already benefit from the tax exemption introduced by the Portia Simpson Miller administration. In fact, the greater savings from the tax rate reduction will accrue to wealthier customers who consume more electricity. What is needed is strong and capable leadership to drive down electricity costs in Jamaica through a transformation of the energy sector. The PNP has a plan to achieve this and a shadow minister with a track record of achieving it. We will bring modern legislation as we've done before and massive investment to the energy sector. And for that, our record speaks for itself. The meager break in market fees for craft vendors does not address their plight. They want a level playing field for doing business. The craft markets are in a terrible state, turning off visitors, and nothing is being done to encourage tourists to visit the craft market. And massive investment so to the energy sector can make money. The People's National Party will ensure that government doesn't shirk its responsibility to make the tourism industry benefit our craft vendors and other locally owned businesses. And the last thing I will say at this point is that the so-called reverse income tax credit is to be turned into a $20,000 money giveaway. It is a blatant, run-with-it, vote-buying scheme for the next election, and is taking place at a time when the economy is contracting and experiencing negative economic growth. However, the recent by-elections in Morant Bay and Annan Town show that the Jamaican people are not for sale and are determined to have a change of government. Thank you.
Leader of the opposition, colleagues, members of the media, good morning. I'm usually very mild-mannered when it comes down to criticizing this government. And this has a lot to do with, for the energy sector, trying to achieve greater unity and consensus. But today, I proclaim that we have not seen in any government since independence such gross mismanagement of the energy sector. And I believe what is happening is that the government, rather than pivoting for growth, is pivoting to elections. We have seen tremendous hardship to the consumers, but we've also seen, because of the high price of electricity, the lack of growth in our economy. Jamaica's energy cost is one of the highest now in the world, coming from 23 US cents per kilowatt hour in 2016, when we left office, to at times way over 40 cents per kilowatt hour. To solve the energy crisis, you have to have laser-like focus on both energy generation and energy transmission and distribution. It won't be solved by some half-baked, cynical, hand-wringing scheme at the 11th hour on the eve of national elections to throw little and meaningless goodies at the problem. We started a mini revolution of the energy sector between 2012 and 2016. We intend to complete that revolution from 2025 until the completion of our first term back in office. Our accomplishments in the period 2012 to 2016 saw the diversification of fuel sources, where over 90% of our electricity was generated from heavy fuel oil and diesel, to a situation from 2016 where 60% of our electricity was generated from LNG and about 20% from renewables. We also did certain modifications of the license to make it far more beneficial to the Jamaican people. We focus on cutting line losses by increasing penalties, and we did introduce prepaid arrangements with the capability to go island-wide. In fact, we introduced a pilot in 2014, and the Prime Minister is unaware that that pilot was expanded nationally by the time his government took office. Total electricity theft today, as a result of the failure of this government, is greater than when the JPSCO was sold in 2001. No new procurement, except for an announcement that we believe the minister will be making this week, after promising over 240 megawatts of renewable energy in 1 year, and then for it to be increased by 100 megawatts. We are seeing the government, after 9 years, announcing the award of licenses for 100 megawatts of new renewable capacity. And this is an instance of gross mismanagement. In 2013, we were able to secure procurement after 1 year in office. And why this is so egregious is that because of what has happened with solar, we are seeing now prices, bid prices for electricity at below 8 US cents per kilowatt hour. These licenses will not take effect until the PNP is returned to power, and no earlier than 2027. Our solution: give power to the people, to democratize electricity, to recognize the power of solar, and also to negotiate a new license with the JPSCO. We, when the time comes for our manifesto to be revealed, will show to Jamaicans that there's tremendous hope for the future with lower electricity prices. The party leader has already commented on the reduction that was announced by the Prime Minister of GCT from 15 to 7%. The GCT reduction disproportionately benefits high-income earners. More than 75% of households will experience minimal relief, with savings capped at about $237 per month. And also in relation to prepaid meter rollout, again, the fact of the matter is that we did start in 2014 this prepaid facility, which was abandoned really, even after we were able to demonstrate its success and the fact that it was capable of going nationwide. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. First, let me say the announcement on Sunday in regards to water we regard as a knee-jerk reaction. This wasn't a decision which was taken by the board of the NWC before the Prime Minister came and made those announcements. The NWC has 547,321 customers. Of that amount, 350,000 is in delinquent in some way, shape, or form. There's a total of 150,000 customers of the NWC who are just basically fall off the system and not paying any water bill whatsoever. The NWC is owed a total of $52 billion. 0 to 5 years, 13 billion, 6 to 14 years, 15 billion, 15 years and over, 24 billion. This government has been there for 9 years now and has done nothing about it. I also note that the NWC, in terms of the customer base now, a monthly collection of $3.3 billion is collected monthly from the customers of the NWC. The 350,000 that is not paying or in some form of arrangement with the NWC will not get a break from what was announced on Sunday. PNP back in 2012, heading on up into 2016, had a social water mechanism within the NWC where pensioners and those that are on path would pay a certain percentage, a certain amount. I think it was $500 at the time it was capped. This was removed from the NWC. And I'm asking here, if it was removed, what are the reasons why it was removed? So from the 547,000 with the 350,000 delinquent, it leaves just 197,000 citizens or customers of the NWC that are paying the water bill for everybody else in this country. So from the 197,000, as I said before, they will see no meaningful gain from the announcement which was made. Our teachers, the 197,000 citizens are customers of the NWC, our teachers, firemen, police, farmers, nurses, taxi drivers, and even some of the current pensioners will not see any benefit from what was announced on Sunday. To further my argument, the Commission database, the NWC database, cannot tell you who is a pensioner from who is a path beneficiary. Here again, the policy was not thought out. It was a knee-jerk reaction and an announcement which was made. If you really want to help the customers of the NWC or the citizens of Jamaica who are faced with hardship, an average customer uses around 3,000 gallons per month of water. First thing you'd want to do is to cap it or create a flat rate for the 3,000 gallons that the citizens use monthly. Another thing, again, you pay dollar for dollar in terms of sewage and water. You could cut back, you could have made an announcement. If you really wanted to help those that are suffering, you could reduce the sewage by anywhere between 25 and 50%. The 197,000 paid customers should be incentivized because they're the ones that are footing the bill also. We agree that after 9 years, there's no prosperity and there's hardship on the land. But in this party, we agree to help the poor, help the pensioners, and all the other stakeholders. But it must be met with a clear policy framework, research, consultation, board approval, management execution that speaks to a clear vision for the NWC. I just want to say again, look, water is too important to the people of this country to be taken or used as a political football in an election season. The NWC needs to be reformed. As I said before, the 197,000 citizens, let's create a way to incentivize them in terms of allowing them to grow and to also show some kind of help to them within this period of hardship. And I just want to say, look, to the staff of the commission, I know for sure that the commission up to yesterday was still calling the Ministry of Social Security and Labor to find out how many citizens are on path and how many citizens are on in terms of the pensioners that are collecting pension. So this was not well thought out. It was a knee-jerk reaction, and it shows a level of desperation on the part of the government. And I'm saying once again, let's put all that aside and let's not use the NWC as a political football. In the end, I think probably approximately 10% out of the 547,321 customers of the NWC will get some help or get some aid going forward. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I watched the conference on Sunday in two capacities. First, I watched as the General Secretary of the People's National Party. And of course, I watched in my capacity as the spokesperson for agriculture, fisheries, and rural development. And I will have some remarks in both capacities. One of the truest measures to determine good management of production and supply of any crop is the relative stability of prices on a weekly and monthly basis within any given year. The government's management of a flagship program to reduce onion imports through its import substitution initiative provides the clearest indicator of its management inability. Minister Green speaks glibly about the establishment of storage facilities, and yet farmers suffered losses earlier this year when production exceeded the monthly requirement of 850,000 kilograms. And they had no appropriate storage facilities, prices were depressed, and inadequate storage facilities resulted in crop deterioration and resultant losses. Recall the cries of the farmers in his constituency of Southwest St. Elizabeth that had to discard of their onions. The supply management of onions has had a significant impact on the consuming public. Recall the lamentations of the consuming public last year and the year before when prices unbelievably reached over $1,000 per kilogram. This should not happen with the application of good management. The total consumption on a yearly basis is known, so it's relatively easy to determine the quantity to be imported without displacing whatever local production exists at any given time in the production cycle. Over the last 5 years, 2019 to 2023, the average annual prices moved from $448 per kilogram to $740 per kilogram, an increase of 65%, or an average yearly increase of 13%, which is way above the annual inflation rate. This can neither be good stewardship of a flagship program nor purposeful management of the variables that affect the average consumers. The management of imported supplies was equally inadequate. The price of imported onions moved from an annual average of $468 per kilogram in 2019 to $783 in 2023, an outturn of 67% over the period and a yearly average of 13.5%. Again, significantly above the annual inflation rate. This cannot be good management and exposes Minister Green's assertion of a build-out of appropriate facilities is hollow. Another product falling under the flagship import substitution program has had no better management. In 2014, the past PNP administration was able to achieve 90% production of Irish potatoes. And now the JLP has reversed those achievements to levels below 70%. In 2023, 6,852,000 kilograms of Irish potatoes was imported, representing a 43% increase over 2022 figure of 4.7 million. This requires a special audit to determine why the efforts of the ministry are failing rather than providing the expected results. When we look at polling in the country, one of the topical issues is cost of living. The hollowed attempts that were made on Sunday does not address the cost of living crisis. If you were to go to Megamart, a pound of lettuce, $814. A pound of cabbage, $380. A pound of Irish, $400. A pound of carrots, $550. A pound of red pepper, $900. A pound of sweet pepper, $600. I was tempted today to bring a basket to repeat what the Prime Minister did when he said what could hold in a basket for $10,000. But when I checked, the price of the basket was more than the $10,000, so I aborted the mission. When I look at what my electricity bill is, my bill came to $15,500. I look at how much GCT I'm paying, and it is $993. The 53% saving that I will get on a monthly basis is $547 Jamaican for the month. $547 Jamaican. It is the same as a pound of carrot at Losushan. 1 pound of carrot is what the government is offering to me as a productive citizen as an attempt to say that they are cushioning the crisis. Agriculture currently only contributes about 9% of the gross domestic product, even though agriculture employs over 250,000 persons are registered as farmers. It is the largest employer of labor, but it is not making the commensurate contribution to the gross domestic product of the country. We have had an increase in our food importation bill. In 2016, when this government took office, food importation was at $838 million US. Last year, it went up to $1.4 billion US, an increase of 75% under this administration. What they're doing is that they're importing more, they're producing less. By any metric, the Minister of Agriculture may be very good at promoting parties, but when it comes on to agriculture, he is a failure. If you want to say you like him, then say that. But an assessment of his stewardship in agriculture is that of failure. The agro-parks, go and visit. I am sure investigative journalism is not dead. Go and visit any agro-park you would like, and you will find idle lands inside of those agro-parks. You understand why production is down. He spoke about putting land titles into the hands of persons. This administration has taken some of the most arable lands with the infrastructure in Bernard Lodge and given it for housing purposes. They have caused less arable lands to be under production by their own doing. In relation to irrigation, only 12% of the arable lands in Jamaica currently have irrigation. He speaks about the irrigation project in St. Elizabeth, which is not a brainchild of his. I suspect that he's trying to be like the Prime Minister and try to father a road that he did not conceive when they named the highway after former Prime Minister Edward Seaga, even though he opposed its construction. It is in keeping with their nature. After 9 years and 8 members of parliament being investigated for illicit enrichment, they now say to the public, it is your turn. An admission that the first 2 terms were for them and their cronies. The Prime Minister says his MPs are not performing after 300% increase, and now they want to say, give them another term. What can go so? Term limits. This Prime Minister lobbied for 2 terms as the limit for a Prime Minister. Now he's campaigning for a 3rd term. We will not have it. 9 years of bad roads. This government cut out the road maintenance fund. So when you drive on any road in Jamaica, you see cars on the side. They're not just parked there. They've suffered damage to their cars. Punctures. I myself had 2 punctures on one side of the vehicle in Holland Bamboo. The roads in Jamaica, as admitted by all of the speakers at the Labour Party conference, they're in a terrible condition. And so I finish with the words of the chairman of the Labour Party. They inside the JLP know that time come for change. Thank you very much.
We will now open the floor for questions. If you're in the room and you have a question for any of our presenter, please say the name of the media house you represent, your name, and then move to your question. If you're online, please use the raise hand icon and we'll acknowledge you.
Good morning, everyone. This is us. My name is Shauna Small from the Gleno. I have a couple questions. First off, Mr. Golding.
Yes, Ms. Small.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
There has been an increase in racially charged rhetoric directed at you from members of the JLP. And especially as we're going into the general elections, there is an expectation that those utterances, will continue. I want to get a reaction from you on those utterances. And also, does the PNP intend to pursue a legal battle to get the mayorship of Maypen? And one of the criticism that have been leveled at the PNP from the JLP as well as other members of society is that, there is no concrete plan that has been shared with us as to what the PNP intends to do should it form the next government. So I want to ask you, when does the PNP intend to share those plans with Jamaicans?
Thank you for your questions, Small. First of all, Jamaica is a society that has a motto, out of many one people. I'm a born Jamaican. I didn't choose my skin color and no one chooses their skin color. I'm a loyal Jamaican, a patriotic Jamaican, and I'm giving of myself to serve the people of Jamaica. I think that the JLP's attempts to use my color as a political battering ram smacks of desperation on their part. It is unprecedented. I don't think any political leader has faced what I have been facing in this regard. And it is because they see that this tide has turned against them. And the people of Jamaica are fed up with them, the dishonesty, the lack of integrity, and a government which pursues policies that don't benefit the people in a direct way. So people have lost hope. People want change. And I suppose I'm the embodiment of that as the leader of the opposition. And therefore, they're trying to attack me. And in a sense, I'm flattered that all they can really attack me on is the color of my skin. I am somebody who grew up here. My wife is an African Jamaican, beautiful woman. And my children are born in Jamaica. And I'm a proud Jamaican citizen. So I think that this is a sad turn of events, and I'm very disappointed in the leadership of the Jamaica Labour Party that they tacitly encourage this kind of behavior, because to me it indicates a lack of principle on their part. And Jamaica's part of the family of nations, you know. We live in a world which is very connected, and other countries, other races of people are looking on and saying, how is it that the government of Jamaica is allowing, you know, a junior minister or a former minister, 2 MPs, to be using racial taunts and slurs as a source of attacking a political opponent? It's very bad form, and it's unfortunate for Jamaica, and it really needs to stop. The other issue you raised was to do with the May Pen by-election. Our position is that with an equality in the number of councillors at the May Pen Parish Council, Municipal Corporation as they're called now, and the PNP having won the popular vote in the parish in the February elections, but also even more so with this by-election now, the right and proper principal thing is for the existing mayor to step down and to allow democracy to prevail and to have the PNP councillors choose a mayor. That is a position that we believe is correct. In terms of what we will do in terms of our legal strategy, I'm not going to disclose that today. On your last question, I have spoken extensively as to the priorities of the next PNP government. I do it in the budget debate every year. I do it at annual conference. And if you look through the things I've said over time, you can see the broad outlines of the types of policies and programs that the PNP will be bringing to Jamaica. We will be seeking to make a more inclusive and equitable society. We want to strengthen economic growth by investing in human capital, fixing the education system, making the health system work for ordinary Jamaicans, strengthening agriculture so we have a more resilient economy, and focus on rural development. We see the logistics opportunities in Jamaica as underexplored, and there's tremendous potential there. That's an area of focus for us. So I'm just giving you some of the ideas that we have. In terms of the granular detail, we believe there's a time and place for getting to that level, and we will decide when we get to that level. Thank you.
A question here online. The JLP at the JLP conference on Sunday, Darrell Vaz used a gesture symbolizing the cutting of the neck. Also, other representatives of the JLP have indicated that they intend to win the election by any means necessary. Is violence something the PNP expects to see in the general election campaign, and what is their message against this?
The Secretary may have some comments on that, but what I would say is this: Jamaica doesn't want to regress to the era of political violence, which has become the source of a lot of our problems in terms of peace and safety of our society. It has a sad legacy that it has left behind. And those remarks, which are incendiary, suggestive that they're prepared to utilize violence, it's sad, and I hope that voters are taking into account, because I think it is something that ought not to be supported at any time. We do not believe in the use of violence for any solution of any problem. And we think that it is a sad day that the JLP, because they're under political pressure, they're way behind in the polls, and my own favorability is now ahead of the Prime Minister's personally in the polls, that they are now resorting to threats, intimidation, and other underhand tactics, which we saw and which we will be documenting and sending to the EOJ and the Commission of Police in the 2 by-elections that we contested and won last Friday.
The media reports have indicated that the Prime Minister's speech is laced with goodies indicating an election is near. How ready is the PNP for elections? This is for the General Secretary.
Thanks. Just to say a few words on the previous question, that a few years ago at Champs, there was a youngster that was running a race, and at the finish line, he turned towards his opponent with his two fingers up, and he was heavily criticized for it. There are persons that went as far as saying they should take away the medal from him. Now, for us to have a minister of government on a political platform that is suggesting that he is going to decapitate someone or cut their neck, I think is totally unacceptable. And I think it speaks to the general deterioration of standards and morals in the Labour Party. Because when you have the Prime Minister, the leader of a party being investigated, he cannot bring order because he can't speak to others within the party and instill any discipline in that organization. In the recently held by-elections, there are persons in the company of members of the Labour Party that were arrested with illegal firearms. In Morant Bain license, outside of the house of the candidate, they fired shots and tore down the orange clad dressings that were there. And after their conference in downtown, they fired shots saying Andrew Holness badness. We come in peace. Our saying is that the word is love. We are trying to build a nation, not tear it down. And we are not willing to burn down Jamaica to rule over the ashes. We come in peace. In terms of our preparations going into the next election, we started out on a process of selecting candidates just over a year ago. And we went through a very methodical means of selecting the candidates scientifically. And we have put candidates in place that we are proud of. You will never hear the leader of the PNP saying on any platform that our candidates are failing or that they are failures, because we have good candidates in place. The PNP is polling ahead. The leader of the PNP is polling ahead of his opponent, and our candidates in the constituencies are polling ahead of their opponents. We are ready for an election. And we say to the Prime Minister, stop the jokes, call the election, because time comes for a change.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, thank you for joining us today.